Hello, today is January 29th, and just another vlog. I had a dream today about my mom bringing in books on Zen and Buddhism while I was napping on the couch, and in my dream I decided that those are evil books, and I said get them out, and I took them outside. It was actually a good dream. And then I woke up because I was getting into that like half dream, half awake state. And that's kind of like a sleep paralysis state. So I made sure to like wake up. I made myself wake up. And yeah, today I was organizing my diaries. This is a big deal. This is actually a huge deal for me. I just want to show off my stack. So this is just a stack of my diaries that I have been keeping since I was 15. So I started in 2011 in January, so it's over 15 years I've been keeping a diary. And I also have a bunch of loose ones that I just put into an organizer, a folder. Just an accordion folder that I got from the dollar store. I really like these accordion folders. And yeah, so it's a huge deal for me because I've been keeping these diaries for 15 years, and I just keep them and bring them with me from house to house wherever I move, across the country, wherever. They're like a part of my belongings, and they're always like loose, like they're not organized. I have dated them. That's what I did today. I looked through all of them and I looked for the dates, and then I organized them by year. So the reason I'm doing that is because I want them to be sorted, and then I want to type them up, organized by date, type them up, put them on the computer, and then run them through an LLM, like a large language model, either like Facebook Fast Text or something else, maybe Beagle or Beagle RP, or one of the one of the LLMs. I actually did work on I did work on LLMs. I was doing research on semantic modeling, and this was before AI came out to the public. It was in around like 2020 or 2021, and I had a professor. I was taking cognitive processes. It's a 3000 level, or like a third year psychology course at the university, and he was teaching us about large language models. He was teaching us about them, and I thought it was so fascinating. And at the time, I actually asked him, I said, can these be used for prediction? And it was like the room kind of went sort of silent, and he didn't really want to give like a straight answer, it felt like. But I had like this intuition that, yeah, it can be. And it's weird too, because AI, it's really taking off and everything, but I understand it at least decently well. I'm sure a lot of people, like the experts who actually work in the field, would understand it way better, but yeah, they're just LLMs, like they're it will never have a soul. A lot of people think it's actually intelligent. It's not. Although it can mimic intelligence. But anyway, that's a more philosophical conversation, or theoretical. But the reason I want to run it through an LLM though is because my research, what I was doing was, I was scraping tweets at the time, Republican and Democrat senators in the US. I took all of their tweets, and it came out to be like millions of words, individual words, right? All of the tweets from the Republicans and all of the tweets from the Democrats. Scraped them all, and it was still Twitter at this time. It wasn't X. And then you put them into an LLM. I think I used Beagle, or maybe it was Beagle RP. And I forget what it stood for. It was like bound, encoded, aggregate, language and something. Encoder, I'm not even sure. Random permutation is the RP version, but it would just give you the it would give you the word in relation to other words. Like it's a representation of how we actually think about words. When you say a word, like I like giving an example like this because it just shocks people, but I'll use like a different example. Like if you say like Titanic, or if you say, I'm using this in this context, but the point is, you say the word nigger, if you say fuck, if you say bitch, if you say some word, like if you say deep sea, if you say ice cream, what happens when you use words? In people's minds, they hear the word, it gets interpreted as meaning, that meaning, it populates other words in their head. It's like, when I know stuff like this, I somehow think that everybody knows it, but I guess like people don't know this stuff as much, but so all these words populate when you hear words, and we put it together in terms of like a story or a narrative. Like that's how people go through the world. It's like a constant story, right, where you're the main character. And it's not always like a story that maybe is being narrated, but it's like the story updates at certain times, or when something happens, you have to think about something, then it's like the story kind of comes back. Sometimes it can be more fluid or not or what, but that's literally how it is, and it's like it populates words. So the reason I want to type all my diaries up and put them in is so that I can see the patterns and what the associations are for the different words. I know it's going to be negative. My diaries, I was trying not to read them all. Like I was trying to just go through the dates, but I was kind of reading little bits of some of them. Very negative, like, but also some of it was kind of surprising too, like how I felt like I was kind of like smart, like some of the things I knew back then or would write about, but yeah, it was also kind of sad and depressing in the context and the circumstances, but just of my life, like all the like terrible things that have happened to me. I'm not trying to whine, I'm just saying, like, it's been hard. That's my point. My family and everything, but yeah, no, I would like to see the patterns. And then something that I saw was that they looked at the journal diaries of nuns. I think it was nuns, and the ones who had more like positive diaries were happier people in general, and the ones who had more like negative diaries were more negative in general. I know I'm more negative in general, like I don't know what to do about that. Like I've tried so hard. I have tried so hard. And if you're just more negative in general, it's really tough. It's really tough because you don't want to be. Who wants to be negative, right? But sometimes I think it's just more realistic. Like sometimes I think people are just kind of like somewhat almost like delusional sometimes. So it's one thing to truly be happy and positive, but it's another thing to just be kind of like trying to fake that and be delusional. And I prefer to just be realistic, right? Anyway, but yeah. So I'm organizing those, and it's a big deal to me. And yeah, 15 years. But it's a lot of it's negative, but it's a lot of real stuff that happened to me. And it's hard to read. Some of it's triggering, and I'm like thinking like, now that I know what I know, like I would do not do this stuff. Like that's what I'm like thinking to myself, like don't do this stuff. Like because I'm journaling about like drinking and going to parties and stuff. It's like do not. It is not good. It is bad, Some of my journals, it was like at 4 a.m. because sometimes I record the time, and I was like thinking to myself like, go like, why are you up that late, And I was like, you drink like back then I would drink Slurpees at midnight, like these sugary drinks, slushies or whatever, and it's like yeah. Dude, like your family is supposed to help you not to do all that stupid stuff, but my family just like did not care or encouraged bad behavior. But my family was like kind of really a mess, so that's why. But yeah, like I said, some of it was amazing, just my thought processes and my ambition too, but also depressing in the light of like circumstances I was in. And I recognize that in some people, like they have such great ambition, but they're in such bad circumstances. And if you give people that have that great energy and ambition who are young, if you give them the right tools, encouragement, and guidance, they can really thrive. They can really grow. They can achieve a lot. But they really do need that guidance too, because also their ego is like forming as well. And a lot of young people, they really want to achieve, but a lot of it they haven't learned like humility and all these different lessons, right, which life teaches you. But you can learn that from the Bible, or you should have like a community and a family to help you learn that too, so that you can fit in with the community and the family and take a position and a role that you're destined for, that your spirit is pushing you toward. Okay, so yeah, I got woozy when I was organizing because I started reading a few of them, and like I get like a woozy feeling. It's like a trigger. It's like if I get triggered or something by something, and like I have CPTSD. I don't like the term triggered, okay, but if I get that, I get like a woozy feeling, and it does happen. It's like I like feel like I'm gonna pass out. But yeah, I got that when I was organizing. I was still able to do it, like to organize, and go through my journals and whatever. This took me a few hours, by the way, but I just had to go slower. So it was slow progress, but I think it's one of the most important things I could be doing. And it's important because it relates to, or it's helping me like figure out, or relates to identity, my identity. It's helping me like figure out my identity, and process all the things in there. Although I'm not trying to like really dive into process it like yet. I'm not trying to do that like super too quickly or something. It'd be very hard. Kind of a slow thing, but yeah, I just at the time I felt like I had a very shameful upbringing in comparison to other people. It's not as bad now. It still feels bad, but it's not as bad because now I'm older, done a bunch of different things. I know a bunch of different things now. Got a degree in psychology. I have more, you could say, knowledge and perspective now. So I'm not as like upset by it, but it would still be hard. Let's say if I was to talk to somebody face to face, it would still be very hard. So I'll try and work on this maybe more like in therapy, you know, talk about some stuff about it, but it would be very hard to just talk to anybody. One of the reasons it's hard to talk to people about stuff like this is because you do not know what other people's reaction is going to be like, and that's the hard part. That is the hard part. The reason I say that is because some people, they make you feel worse. You know what I mean? And that's the thing nobody wants, right? And it's also, you don't want to make them feel bad, at least from my position. You know, if I didn't care, I'd go tell everybody. But I also don't want to make other people feel bad, and I don't want to make myself feel worse too. You know what I mean? Okay. Yeah. So I organized it by year. I want to type it out. I want to see the word affect. Like, each word has an affect. That means a feeling. So an affect is a feeling, and they call it valence, because it can be like positive or negative, right? It can be one side or the other. A word can make you feel good or bad. Words like sunshine, puppies, kittens, you know, stuff like this has a sort of a normed or a normative affect that's higher than if I was to use the words like rape, pedophile, murder. Those words have a negative affect, but there's also words in the middle, like grain is like neutral almost. Like, it doesn't make people feel too much. But and I kind of have to always remind myself this, that other people don't know this, but it really is a thing. That's why if you see advertising for stuff, they always just use good words, like quote unquote good words that have a positive affect, because they know. Like, these places hire marketing firms, they hire PR, they hire whatever, ad companies, whatever. And yeah, those places know this stuff, and they use it on you. They use it on us, man. They're using it on us all the time. Yeah, a lot of it's scammy, like, you know. It's not in your best interest, that's my point. They just want to make you think that it's in your best interest to sell stuff to you. But I think a lot of people know this on some level. Okay, and then I want to compare the affect to normative data sets too, and check the patterns. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see in light of my current knowledge on psychology, and also my religious knowledge too. You know, this is kind of the route that I took, just to describe what I know and like why I chose to study the things that I know, or why I chose to study the things that I did. I chose it like at the core for truth, okay? At the very core for truth is why I chose to study the things that I did. And what that led me to was a bunch of different places, but perception, perspectivism, and then narrative and stories, and then feelings and consciousness. So it led me to these kind of places because, like I say, like, we live in different realities. Well, when I say that, I mean each person is like the main character in their own story, and we understand things in terms of a story. That comes from narrative theory by Walter Fisher. And I was very rigorous. Like, I was very hard on myself with all of this stuff. I don't just do it easily. Like, I don't just like, oh yeah, that sounds true. Dude. I don't do it like that. I'm like comparing, I'm like in like a debate in my own head. I'm like comparing different things I've heard before. Like, I'm making sure something is right. And it's a hard place to do. It's a hard thing to do by yourself, but I did all that stuff. And the reason why is because I was like, what's true? Like, what's true here? Like, what's the true thing? And yeah, it's a lot of it is like interjudge agreement. Like the closest available proxy of truth is interjudge agreement. So if you and your friend agree on something that's, let's say it's completely wrong, but you and your friend agree on something, well, it's true to you guys. And if you and your friend and then 20 other people agree on that thing, it's still wrong, but it's true to you guys. If you and your friend and a million other people agree on that thing, it's still wrong, but it's true to you guys. So it gets confusing when you think about things this way, but that is like the essence of like humanity, of like how things are, is interjudge agreement. Like what people agree on is true to them. I think people know this, but it's a proxy of truth. It's not truth itself. Like, yeah, kind of a weird thing actually. I know that that's only for like I take that from research by David Funder on personality. So he says that about personality, but I do think it applies to other things. Like two easy examples are borders and money. You could say a border is just a line or a fence or whatever. This is called deconstructivism or deconstruction, like Jacques Derrida and others. You talk about deconstructing things, which I find it to be really annoying. Like I find deconstructivism really annoying, but it's just like taking things apart to their core of what that single thing is. But it's really an annoying thing. But yeah, you could say a border is just a line or marks on a map, but people agree on it, right? So what makes it real? Well, the guns make it real. The consequences make it real. And you will get shot if you cross certain borders illegally. If you try to go to North Korea, you will get shot without the correct agreement along the way. So that's the important thing. And I think like a lot of people know this kind of, right? And but it relates further. It's like, well, why do people agree on things? I would say that it is, yeah, it's based on a story, if your stories line up, right? But it's also based on consciousness, like your level of consciousness, right? So people can agree on things. If someone has like a bad feeling, they can still agree on it, but they will know that they have a bad feeling about it. So that also plays into the story, at least for that person. They'll be like suspicious or skeptical or have regret or something, or maybe feel guilty, but they will still have agreed on that thing with somebody else. But like at a higher level of consciousness, everything agrees. Like that's what the Holy Spirit is. That's what truth is. It's agreement. Like it's yeah, that's what love is as well. And there's a thing about how all the church fathers agree. Well, like when I read stuff like this, I just think it's obvious. Like, yeah, they agree because they're touched by they're inspired by the Holy Spirit. They're in spirit. So anyway, but I went at things at like a really different angle. I think than a lot of people. I'm not trying to like say I'm so super special, but I really did go at this stuff at a very different level. Like I went through like the psychology route first. I was looking at perception, right? Like thinking about perception and feelings, right? So anyway. Okay, so yeah, I would say my neuroticism is really high. I don't like saying that, but I don't think anybody would like saying that, but I would say it's true. And I noticed that when I read through some of my old diaries, and I've kind of known that, implicitly or whatever. But the thing is that it's like an internal conflict, because if you're neurotic, if you have a high neuroticism, that means your proclivity or your propensity to feel negative emotional states. If you get anxious often, if you feel fear often, if you feel like fearful, if you feel angry often, that's called neuroticism. That's, at least within psychology, that's classified as being high on neuroticism. Some people don't feel that all the time, right? They may feel it, but less so. So it's kind of like a scale. But yeah, I don't like that, but I would say that that's true for me. And I think I've even seen that when I took like a personality test before. The IP Neo is the best personality test that I know of. Other ones are not that great, although they can tell you things like the MBTI and whatever, but they're not that great. But yeah, I have a high P value too, and the reason I'm saying all this stuff is also because a lot of other people struggle with this stuff too, right? But nobody can talk about it honestly, it seems. I guess maybe people don't even know, right? There's a study about P value. P value is the same as G value, like or it's a corollary for G value, meaning they're kind of like both trying to do the same thing. G value is like your intelligence score, which, they do tests on people, and then there's a study. They test them when they're young, and then, or in the study, they test them when they're young, and then they see like what's their intelligence. They classify it as G value. I don't think it's exactly the same as IQ, but later in life they look at where these people end up, and the people higher on G value, they end up in more careers like mathematical or STEM careers like mathematics, engineering, technology. People higher or lower on G value, they're doing different jobs like that don't require as much intelligence, I guess you could say. But the same thing for P value. So P value, your psychopathology, your psychopathology score. So a pathology is like something in your head, like I don't want to mess this up. I actually don't know the exact definition, but I think pathology is like a condition. If you have like a condition, they say that's a pathology. Like if you have ADHD, if you have depression, if you have an anxiety disorder, it's when it becomes a disorder that's a pathology. They say don't over pathologize. A lot of people maybe do this. They over pathologize themselves or others, but psychopathology, so like your I guess a pathology could be any like medical condition, but a psychopathology would be like a mental disorder. So if you have a high P value, you have more like chance or probability to have something, some sort of psychopathology, but also a lot of other medical conditions as well. And this is by it's not by Chris Palmer, but he talks about this in his book Brain Energy, and he said that's the underlying thing of all mental disorders and everything is the P value, or at least that's what they found in that study. So what makes your P value high? Well, obviously it's nature and nurture. So if you can actually have in your genes, like genetically you can be born to have higher neuroticism, or you can inherit something like certain disorders are very heritable or more heritable than others. Things like schizophrenia, things like I think bipolar, I think autism as well. They say these things kind of like run in families. Well, they're heritable, they're in genes and in DNA. But the other thing would be environmental, so nurture. Well, that's like if you were abused. If you have adverse childhood events, that's what they call those. Like when something really bad happens to you when you're young, that is not, let's say, processed at the time or around the time properly. That's called an adverse childhood event, or an ACE. So there was another study, the ACEs study, but it's when children have a high amount of ACEs, they track these kids, or when people have a high amount of ACEs, they track them later in life. They looked at how many disorders or medical issues and things of that nature they had, and it was there's a term here I can't remember, but it was like in concordance with the amount of ACEs, right? It's scaled with the amount of ACEs that people had. I've had like freaking 15 or 20 or something. Like, I've had so many, dude. I've had so many. So it's like, yeah, I have a high p-value, both nurture and also nature as well, because like there's these things run in my family, like just my mom alone and my dad too, but these like different disorders and stuff. But the thing is that back then, like, people didn't talk about any of this stuff as much, right? As they do now. So now it seems like everybody and their grandma knows about this stuff, but much less back then. Although people did know in some level. But the thing too is, I'm not actually a huge fan of all of psychology. I talked about this before, but I think like a lot of psychology did not actually help, because I think, I don't know, it's tough to say really if psychology really helped or hindered, just kind of cracked open the can of worms or cracked open Pandora's box in a lot of ways, but it tries to help. And actually, I'm sure there are examples where it does help with certain things, but yeah, what are the effects? Like, what are the second, third, fourth, fifth, nth order effects of that help is also a good question. It's a tough question. That relates back to the story of original sin, actually, and the biting the apple of the knowledge of good and evil. Who's to say what's good and evil? Well, we try and do that now, but we weren't supposed to. That was the original sin. That's what separated us from God. Okay, so that's what Satan told us to do. That's what it's like. Everybody does that too. We do things because we think they're good, right? Like, in some way we think they're good or worthwhile doing. But yeah. Anyway. Okay, so yeah, so I talk about this stuff because I'm not the only one. A lot of people have issues like this, but just look at the data. But yeah, I would say what I'm noticing from just looking at the diaries is like, okay, this is persistent. I've struggled with this stuff for a long time. I've had this sort of, I'm like a dilettante a bit, like means try a bunch of different things but don't get good at anything in particular. Although I have gotten good at certain things, but I'm some ways a dilettante, which part of that's normal, like people try out different things, but I always kind of really wanted to get very good at something, but I think that's partly related to just fitting in and being praised and having like purpose and a role and an identity as well. But I fall into like a pattern of like trying to reinvent my life or myself often, which honestly it's annoying. And over time, now that I recognize it, like, it's really annoying and it's hard. You have to just kind of like stay the course, right? Like, the course being the Bible. Like, that's what I have to keep coming back to, praising God and remaining humble. But yeah, I get ideas all the time, about how I'm gonna reinvent my life, and I hear this from other people too, including my mom. She's like this also. But for me, I crave stability, but I also crave growth, right? And I'm easily dissatisfied and not very appreciative of myself or the things that I've done, and it's hard to be. Like, I can't really see it, I can't really see it as well. So that's tough. But yeah, you're supposed to get that from your family, by the way, when you're growing up. Yeah. But it can, like, in my case, like, it can leave you in a place where you want that from somebody else, right? You want to know if your ideas are correct. It's the craving validation thing, and that can be like, it's healthy, sort of, right? Like, to want validation on things, but I guess can become unhealthy and codependent and stuff. So that's what scares me as well. But I don't like, asking for validation, but I appreciate it. I think everybody kind of does, but it's not healthy if you need it constantly. So but yeah, what else? Yeah, and I'm very much influenced by the environment and social stuff. But I'm not the only person like this. Like, I'm not really trying to say it's super bad, but just noticing it. I didn't go out today. Kind of had a rest day today. But I stood outside a little bit in the just on the doorstep in the cold, looking at the sun. It was a nice sunny day today. Really like the sunshine. And my cat comes out with me too, and he sits in the sun too. He likes it too, I think. When I was doing my sorting my journals, I could notice my hands. This sounds weird, I know, but my hands felt different. This is really a strange thing for me, because my hands, it's like, a lot of times I don't like my hands, okay? Especially my nails. And I chew my nails by habit, and I really don't like it. But I've done that since I was a kid. And my hands, though, they felt more like normal, and I could feel them like, almost like it was like they were comfortable for a little bit after I sorted some of my journals. Earlier today, I screamed, like I let out a scream, like a short scream. Kind of a light scream, not a very loud one, but it was because I was like sitting on the couch and I was trying to like feel in my body. This might sound weird to somebody who doesn't need to do this or whatever, but if you're cut off from your body, like if you're cut off and you don't really feel all your body, and you're just like living up in your head, kind of like how I do, which it's not a good thing, by the way. It's not a good thing to do that. It's good to be like connected, your whole body, but yeah, I tried to feel into my body, and I just like let out a scream. So that's a good thing, I feel, and I feel embarrassed about it. Like, I don't really think neighbors could hear me, and I don't want to upset people, but it's actually an important thing, I feel, because it's kind of like a little kid scream, like I'm scared all the time inside, And again, I don't like saying this stuff, but it's just a reality. And so when I try and feel into my body, just like put my awareness into my body, it's like makes me feel like that fear, and then I just like screamed. So I would like to do more of that. That sounds really weird, I know. But honestly, I feel like it would be helpful for me. Another thing is, like, my body's in pain, like, all the time, I'm just kind of, like, numbed out to it. Yeah. When I was reading through my journals, there was one thing I read, just popped out to me. You've got to feel it to heal it quote by Corey Wayne. I don't know where he got that from. It's not original to him, I'm sure, but you got to feel it to heal it, right? But yeah, this is what it looks like to do that. It's ugly, it's messy, it's uncomfortable. Yeah. My cat, he's very good. He's very helpful. He lays down and hangs out with me while I do this stuff. So he's a helpful little cat. Okay. I bought the Hinge Premium today, Hinge X. Then I requested a refund right away. I bought it because it was on sale. Like they hit you with like a, it's 50% off something. It was still like $30, which is a pretty big waste of money. You probably probably say, but I bought it and I got like sucked in after I bought it, and I requested the refund, and I was in like a trance. I was like swiping on there for like 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours, I don't know. But yeah, it's just the phone trap and the dating app trap and everything. I think that the phone trap is common for a lot of people. The dating app trap, probably not as much for everybody. Maybe a few people would relate, but it's the phone trap where you get sucked in, or you like in a trance and you're just watching reels, or you're watching whatever it is, and you're just like on there. It's such a trap. You can just get sucked in. But yeah, I would say that it gets people because the alternative is being lonely, bored, and in an unrewarding hole where you're by yourself. If you don't have other stuff to do, and also because it's social to, that's what the social perspective, or the that's what people do socially, is they're just on their phone all the time. So it's always reinforcing. Other people see that and they go on their phone, and then other people see you and they go on their phone. So it's kind of like the culture, which is not a good thing. But that's what keeps us coming back, right? And people recognize it's bad, but they don't want to let it go, and they always say, well, I need my phone for this and this reason, and they have a logical reason for why: calendar, contacts, keep in touch, whatever. But if you look at what we're actually doing on the phone, dude, there's a cognitive dissonance or something going on there, right? A lot of people's screen time is absurd. It's unhealthy, and the amount of time people spend with their friends has dropped from like, what was it like? I forget the data, but it dropped like a huge amount that people spend on average with their socializing with their friends from like 20 years ago. But anyway, yeah, it's screwing society, or it has been screwed already. I don't know what we can do about it. But yeah, I'd say the masses of people, which I am one of, but are retarded, I don't really like to say that, but I've been saying that a bit lately. It's just because I kind of think that. I think everybody kind of thinks that, so it's kind of a weird thing going on, but we're all still human though, so we're all equal under God, but really, people are retarded, and it's like if you want to control the masses, and that's if you think I'm being mean talking about this, like this is what whole governments are spend their time talking about. This is what like all governments spend their time talking about, and or at least departments within them spend time talking about this, and then all like many companies or all companies talk about this too, and then individual people talk about this to make more money for themselves. It's like, dude, everybody's thinking about controlling you, like the masses. They don't think about you individually. They think about, probability and what group you fall into. But the masses are retarded, and if you get hot women on board with what you're doing, like it's interesting. If you get a movement going, it's like you have to get like certain groups to go first or be a part of it, and then it just becomes like a movement or whatever. But yeah, if you get attractive women on board, then you get the simps on board. And I've been a simp in the past, so I'm not trying to be very mean about it. I don't feel good about that. I don't think anyone would feel good about that. Although some people, they get really weird and they actually do feel good about being a simp. It's not a good thing, by the way, but yeah, so it's just how the trends go. And then I noticed on the dating profiles that I was looking through, there's a lot of repeats. Like people just copy down the same prompts or the same bios, and you see the same ones over and over and over. but women they're looking for mustaches and tattoos a lot. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them they like that, or they put that as a like something they want. And so it's funny when I walk outside and I see guys with mustaches. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. You know. That's funny, you know, just thinking about it, like, yeah. uh, okay, yeah, and, man, tattoos are not attractive, to me at least. Although I guess I kind of lied when I told someone that, tattoos are, I didn't think they were that bad, but I don't know, it's tough. When people have tattoos, you don't feel good if you tell them tattoos are ugly, you know? But I guess that's just dishonesty. Should be honest, probably. I don't know, it's tough. It's interesting thinking about what you should and shouldn't say and what the filter is and the boundaries, but yeah, everybody knows about the NPC thing, non-playable character, and they say people are there's so many NPCs and normies and whatever. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. What's bad, because not everybody has to be extremely unique in everything. What's bad is who programs the masses. Like, how do the NPCs get programmed, or the normies? Like, that's the bad thing, and or can be bad. Yeah, we're seeing that happening. It's demographic control. But yeah, talking to women, I don't really know how. Like, I'm kind of getting back to it. At certain points, I was very good at talking to women. It was weird, but like I took this heroic dose of shrooms like 3 years ago, or like 4 years ago now, almost. Might have been 4. I'm getting there. I can't remember when. I guess that was in 2022, so like 3.5. But I like before that I was kind of good at it, but I wouldn't say in like a good way, you know. I would like to know how to talk to women in like a healthy way, like especially to be like a man, like be dominant in a healthy way. I know that sounds weird to even say that, but yeah, I just kind of like forgot or something. But that's not the culture too. Like, the culture is where men are pushed to be like retarded or stupid, like seen as, and then women are supposed to be like so knowledgeable and everything. But yeah, it's messed up right now, and getting more messed up too. But yeah, I've done it before, and sometimes it's easy. But I would say sexting is bad. I've done that before. It's bad. Yeah. I rested today, actually, most of today, and I'm sticking to my diet, and I'm eating pretty well, like clean and healthy. So thanks be to God for that. So that's going well. I want to continue going out to evangelize. Keep doing that. I feel bad because I'm a sinner, but I have to keep reminding myself like we're all sinners. So it's okay. It's not like okay to keep trying to be a sinner, but it's okay to be a sinner and to keep trying to be better. But yeah, I've talked to about 5 people so far. And I left a review today for a mechanic that I had in the past, because I pulled out, I was going through my stuff, I pulled out the old receipt, and I remembered this mechanic did not do the job correctly. And so I left an honest but bad review, like, because he honestly did a bad job. And what happened was he didn't. I brought my car in to get the valve cover gasket changed and plug well gasket changed, because there was oil leaking into the plug wells. And then then he did the job, and it seemed like it was okay, but then the car was hard to start after, and um, I went to I didn't know why, and I didn't go back to him. Maybe I should have and said like, "Hey, my car's not starting very well," but it wasn't all the time that it was starting poorly. It was just when it was getting colder. And then I went to a different mechanic. Like I moved, and this was like months and months later. I moved all the way across the country to a different province, like back to my home province. And I went to a different mechanic, and he said that the valve had, actually before I went to him, I checked under the hood because I was like, why is my car not starting? And it's getting colder and it's getting harder and harder to start. You had to keep turning the key, like holding it to try and start it for so long. And it had never really done that before. I opened the hood, and there was two things that weren't plugged into the engine, like two plug things that weren't plugged in. And I don't know all the terms or anything, but I just plugged them in, and it was starting perfectly. I was like, how did he not plug in those two things? Like, that's kind of crazy. He didn't finish the job properly. And then, but it's kind of minor, but still annoying. And then because it was bugging me for months, and I was just like wondering if it was going to go away or what. Because on a warm day it would start okay. But then I took it to another mechanic, and he checked the spark plugs and said there was oil in the plug wells. And I was like, man, that's so not good. And I told him, I was like, I just got that done at a different mechanic. And he kind of like, that kind of knowing nod or glance or whatever. He's like, yeah, that guy didn't do the job right. And so I left a review, and I felt kind of like a 2-star review, and I just said, he didn't do the job properly, and I listed why, or described why. And then I don't feel good about leaving a bad review, but he did a bad job, so I want to be honest, and somebody's got to like, hold people accountable, especially because I paid like $400, so yeah, but I did put on there like 2 stars, not 1, and I said that there was friendly service, but he didn't do the job properly. So yeah, that's all. Yeah.